Welcome to the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation podcast series, July episode. This month, we're looking at from evidence to action, how research actually moves through government. Somewhere in Nigeria this week, a decision is being made. It might be about how many teachers a state can afford to train, which primary healthcare center get upgraded first, or whether a levy stays or goes. Somebody had to make that decision. And the question we sometimes come back to is this: did evidence guide that decision making? The honest answer is that we often do not know, because evidence does not travel by itself to the decision making table. It moves through people, committees, memos, ministerial priorities, budget cycles, procurement rules, and eventually through whoever is expected to deliver it in a government, local government, somewhere. Every one of these is a real stage with real gatekeepers, and evidence can gain momentum or lose it at each one. So the question for this episode is, what does it take for evidence to move through the real machinery of government, from problem definition to decision to budget to implementation and finally to learning? My name is Emmanuel Ejewule, Team Lead, Evidence and Impact, Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation, and I am joined by a guest who has spent years inside government and has seen the journey firsthand. Dr Yusuf Saeed spent years in the Federal Ministry of Education, most recently as Director of Human Resource Management. He was part of the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation's 2025 Policy Writing and Review Workshop for Directors in the Federal Civil Service, run with the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation. He has sat in the rooms where the decisions are actually taken. Let's follow the journey. Dr. Saeed, every policy journey begins with identifying a problem worth solving. From your experience inside government, how does a problem officially become a ministry's priority? Does it actually begin with government itself identifying an issue, with research commissioned to answer a specific question, or with evidence coming from outside? Is there a moment where a problem becomes an official priority through a directive, committee, ministerial agenda, or national crisis?
Once again, my name remains Dr. Yusuf Saeed, the immediate past Director Human Resource, Federal Ministry of Education. Thank you very much, and I share this privilege, and thank you for your effort. Yes, to the question, yes, in my experience in service, there is really no single route by which a problem becomes ministry priority. Problem comes to the government through multiple channels, but they become official priorities only after they are recognized by the ministry's leadership and incorporated into the decision-making processes of the ministry. So a problem becomes a ministry priority not simply because it exists, but because the government formally accepts responsibility for addressing or solving it. That acceptance usually follows some laid-down pathways. The government might identify the problem, which, for example, might be declining service delivery, persistent vacancy, poor examination article, and others. The department analyze the issue and submit a memorandum to the management. That's the entire process. The department will look at it. You go to the director, go down to the other technical officer, they look at it, and they bring up their own proposal, which will be worked on by decision makers above the directors. Then the research, again, it might be as a result of research. Many will ask, why are teachers leaving rural schools? Why is staff productivity declining? Why are projects consistently delayed? Research may be commissioned to answer these specific questions. The findings then inform policy decision. Then sometimes again, evidence comes from outside the government, from the universities, the development partners, professional associations, and the media. However, external evidence alone does not automatically make an issue a ministry priority. it must be examined internally to determine whether the evidence is credible, whether the issue falls within the purview of the ministry, that's his mandate, whether it's urgent, whether government intervention is actually required. Sometimes the problem will come up as a result of national crisis acceleration. Let's say flooding, for example, disease outbreak, remember COVID and other things, then that's an issue that in such situation priority can change very quickly because government must respond immediately. So now, is there a moment when it becomes official? Yes, there's usually a recognizable point at which an issue moves from being a concern to becoming an official ministry priority. You can express your concern. For ministry to take responsibility and announce, okay, this is a priority, I have to address it. It must take different forms. One, the honorable minister can direct, when it comes to him, he can say, develop a policy on this. Then he goes to the PAMSEC. PAMSEC now, okay, look at it, maybe across 2 departments. So please, you look at it and come up with a policy. Develop this and get out the work plan or other things like that. Those are those issues that the ministry face from time to time, and an issue becomes firmly established as a ministry priority when it appears in strategic plans, in medium-term sector strategy, in annual work plan of the ministry. Those documents translate concern into institutional commitment. And sometimes, again, for major national reforms, priorities may be established through Federal Executive Council, Presidential Directive, national policy approvals, or statutory obligations. In all of these, the end is to solve a problem. So when a problem is there to be solved with enough evidence, then the government will now prioritize that particular subject. So government does not adopt problems simply because they appear in research report. A problem becomes a priority for a ministry when credible evidence, operational experiences, and public needs are factored into it, and you'll see that yes, there's actually the need to address those issues. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Doctor, for the response. Once a ministry has recognized a policy problem, just like you have mentioned, what kind of evidence is it looking for? Is it asking researchers to prove a preferred solution, to better understand the problem, or to help weigh different policy options? And what separates research that is likely to be taken seriously from research that never gains traction?
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. You see, once a ministry has recognized a policy problem, the question is no longer whether there's a problem or not. The question now becomes, what is the best way to solve it? How do we get around this problem? That is the next level. So, what kind of evidence are we looking for? At this stage, we are looking for research that reduces uncertainty and help us to make a better decision. So first, we must understand the problem properly. How large is the problem? Who is affected? And such other questions as what's causing it? Is it getting worse or better? What happened if we do not do anything about it? So if staff turnover, for example, is increasing, you'll be interested in finding out why they are leaving. I remember in sometimes it's 2000, right? Year 2000. You see some staff, level 10, level 12, turning in their retirement letters. They want to retire, they want to leave the service. A colleague of mine did that. And we're asking. They look at the democracy, this democracy, something was new then. They look at it as better paying up than the civil service. So they resigning to join politics. But when government says that in its wisdom, came up with a policy that before you cannot go, because that time you could go contest. If you fail, you come back to service. But with government policy, you have to resign all and go all together. You resign all together, go contest. If you fail, you stay there. You don't come back to the service. And that now regulates the number of staff leaving the service for politics and political journey. So we want to understand also once the problem is clear, we want to know what option exists, what has worked elsewhere, what has failed, what are the likely costs, what are the risks concerned. government is really choosing between doing something and doing nothing. So, the third area we need to come to is evidence about the implementation. You have to develop the evidence about implementation. Do we have the necessary skills to execute that policy, to address that problem? Can existing institutions deliver it? Does the law permit it? What is the position of law on it? Is it affordable? How much does it cost? Considering the lean lean pulse of the government, how long will implementation take? Is it going to take forever or timeline? So all those questions are of interest to us. We want to know how success will be measured. In all ends of such problems, if you want to achieve results, you must internalize monitoring and evaluation processes. So you have to measure it. What does it look like? Which education should be monitored? How soon should results appear, among other things? So, and the second one, you say, are we asking researchers to prove a preferred solution? Not ideally. What if researcher begins with the objective of proving a predetermined answer? It loses much of its value. The best research work actually tests assumptions, challenges existing thinking, presents compelling options fairly, and explains the strength and weakness of each. Government will ultimately choose one option, but it does so knowing the evidence behind the alternative. Okay, in my view, what makes a research work influential? From my experience, some of the factors that make them influential is, does it answer real policy question? Does it address an issue that management is actively trying to solve? If it doesn't, then it's not flying anywhere. It will influence anything. Then the timing again matters. Is it credible? Credibility. Is the methodology sound? Are the data obtained reliable? Are the data generated, are they reliable? Can the finding be trusted? Credibility is actually the foundation of influence in research work. Okay. Then you want to see again, ask such questions: what government could do? Who should do it? What resources will be required? And what obstacles should be anticipated? Is the report, is the research work concise? Because senior officials rarely have time to read a 200-page thesis. Most begin with an executive summary, a policy brief, and others, so that if the summary is compelling, the full report can be consulted further. That is generally how it is in the ministry. So you don't do it like a research work, asking some questions that are not helping the service to solve the problem at hand. So research sometimes recommend ideal solution without considering research. So most researchers do it. They recommend their own ideal solutions without considering budget limitations, legal requirement rules, and staffing constraints and others. Researchers that acknowledge these realities is more persuasive. So, I think the fourth one is about research fails to gain traction. Yes, from my experience again, you see research is less likely to influence policy when it identifies problems but provides no practical options. No practical options. Government work between options. Okay, option A, option B, option C. So, you are just a research work that directs that it's only this way and no any other way. That is not a research work in government cycle. That is not a perfect research work in government cycle. Okay, a research work in government cycle must not ignore the financial implication. You must tell us the cost of executing that particular policy or problem, addressing the problem. If you are recommending an action to be taken, it must not be outside the ministry's legal authority, and you must rely on updated evidence, not evidence that are just mongopack evidence. You must have an updated evidence. You see, academic audience and the government officials, ministry officials are different. So, if you are writing for you cannot be saying you are writing for academic audience, then you present that report to the ministry. It will not fly anywhere. Those are some of the reasons why most researchers fail. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saeed, for the insights you've shared. around how problem becomes a priority to government. There must be internal acceptance. And again, there are several channels through which problem identification must come to be identified. And with respect to that, but not just leaving it at the level of identifying problem alone, but profiling credible solutions that can address those issues, taking into consideration several requirements like legal requirements, resources availability, and also how that can actually address the need of the people. And again, why professionals like citizens in different capacity have input to make is also important for them to see the level of alignment so that evidence generated towards providing intervention through policy or whatever government can do, ministries within the ministry mandate must ensure that the research is concise, and they must work with the ministry that is applicable to see that government is achieving its goal, but not just leaving it at providing just identification of problems, but what are the solutions, who should be addressing those solutions, how can that solutions be brought to bear, and at the end, how would that produce a positive impact in the life of the citizens. And this will lead us to our next question. Dr. Saeed, this is a part most people outside government never see, and you have been in government for a very good number of years. So I want to slow it right down. A research report arrives at your ministry. Walk us through it physically. Who receives the report? Who is asked to read it? Does it become a memo? Does it go to a committee? Whose signature does it need? And at what point, if any, does it leave the ministry for the Federal Executive Council or the National Assembly?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Federal Civil Service has a very well-structured administrative chain. So when the report arrives at the ministry, it passes through those chains before any decision is taken on it. The exact procedures vary among ministries. The flow, generally, what is obtained is the first stage is the receipt of the report. Research report comes to the ministry. It could come from the University Research Institute, consultant, internal committees, department within the ministry, or international development partners. Who receives it? When it comes in, it could come in physically or electronically. You see, the policy of government now in the federal ministries is to get digitalized. Like for instance, now you don't submit anything to head of service office physically. You do it electronically. My ministry has gone that road. Ministry of Transport has gone through the same. So most ministries are keying in now because government policy that with effect from, I think it started from December, you don't carry bulky things around. It's electronically, you channel them. So when they receive them, the registry will receive the copies. If it's addressed to the Honorable Minister, they will first of all stamp it, assign a reference number, and enter it in the incoming correspondence register. Then they will now take it to whoever it's addressed to, normally to the Honorable Minister or the Permanent Secretary. If it goes to the Honorable Minister, he will minute it to the Permanent Secretary, who examines the report briefly, and then minute it further to the relevant director in charge of that particular issue. Am I right? Please, Director Human Resource, please study and advise. Or you write, please examine and submit recommendation. It's something like that you will write. Then, when it gets to the director does not analyze the report personally from beginning to end. We have technical officers in the ministry. So, director will now minute deputy director, who will in turn minute it to the assistant director, then it will get to the technical officer. So, the technical officers are the people that prepared the briefing memo. This is often called a submission, departmental brief, and analysis, or an executive summary. At this particular point, this particular report will now, first of all, the memo that's going to be generated internally will now become the working document. Why the report becomes the attachment, the annexure to the memo. So the report could take this normal something that background, major findings, implications, financial implication, legal framework, existing policy position, and recommendation. At this stage, the STAR report itself remains an attachment, just like I said. So the internal vetting, the draft now moves upward the same way it arrives. So the technical officers will take it to the assistant director, to the deputy director, to the director. Then from the director now, it will now add its own observation. And that's after analyzing all the submissions of the other line officers. It will now make some corrections if need be, then seek sort of clarification if need be. Then it will add its own input and forward to the permanent secretary. So when it gets to the permanent secretary, maybe the report is saying that maybe it affects one other department, it will now forward it to that department for input. If the issue at hand is very, very significant, then a committee, the PAMSEC will direct a committee to be set up to look at it and come up with their own recommendation. That is how it generally works. So, committee now submit to the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary will look at it. He may approve the recommendation. He may reject it, request further information or further evidences, then refer it to management meeting or recommend that the minister consider it. At this point, it's the responsibility of the PAMSEC as the head of admin in the ministry to sign the memo. Okay. If the issue concern involves national policy, new legislation, major expenditure, international obligation, and other things, the file goes to the Honorable Minister, who may approve implementation, request amendments, direct further consultation, or escalate the matter. So the report, the recommendation actually will now, whether it leaves the ministry or not, depends on what the research recommends, the committee recommends. It ends within the ministry if it's about internal issues, staffing matters, reverse procedures, deployment policy, and others. It stays in the ministry. The second option is if it will go to the Federal Executive Council when it requires cabinet approval on such issue as a new national policy and establishment of a new agency, adoption of a national strategy, significant financial commitment, and others. So the ministry prepares a Federal Executive Council memo. This is a formal document, cabinet document signed by the Honorable Minister before transmission to the Cabinet Affairs Office in the Office of Secretary to the Government of the Federation, then to the Federal Executive Council. If the FEC approves it, it comes back to the ministry. The decision will come back to the ministry for implementation. Okay. The other option again is if the matters concern enactment of new law, amending an existing act, approving an appropriation and other things, it will go to the National Assembly, whereby a ministry will draft the proposal, but the executive transmits them to the National Assembly through the appropriate constitutional processes. National Assembly then consider the proposal through firstly another processes, then get approved, and the president, they will approve it, the president will attend to it, and it comes back again for implementation. So the research report generally is the evidence, while the departmental memorandum is the decision-making instrument. Senior management and political office holders rely on them to take decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now the judgment itself. When that report is being weighed, what is the actual in the room beside the evidence? I am thinking of the minister's own priorities, the administration's manifesto commitments, what the ministry is already committed to delivering this year, what the agencies under you want, and what your officers are personally rewarded or personalized for. How do those forces sort themselves out?
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. You see, in the federal civil service, we rely on evidence to take on a problem. So, but again, the evidence is not all about evidence on table wins. No, when it gets to the management, that's when the real work begins. Everybody is given the voice to contribute to that policy, to that draft policy. Evidence is one of them. Looking at the very evidence, what is your position? What is your position? What is your position? Supported by evidences and on the other supporting evidences. So if it wins, yes, it will go. When the proposal reaches there are usually several considerations being weighed simultaneously. So evidence tells us what ought to be done. Government must also decide what can be done now with the authority, resources, and commitment it has. So if it's in the room, the evidence on the table, yes, is the management man asks, is the problem real? How reliable is the evidence? What are the options? What are the likely outcomes? Without credible evidence, it's difficult to justify committing public resources, which is lean and competing with other priorities. But evidence really ends the discussion. The Honorable Minister's priority will come into play. The campaign commitment and presidential directive, cabinet effect decision, and others. Then the broader government agenda, economic diversity, digital government, education quality, all those will come into play. Then existing commitment. What have we already promised to deliver this year? That's the government. It comes into play. So before you see evidence go through, there are lot of factors to be considered. And the top management brainstorm on them before they come out. They look at such issues as the administrative capacity. Do we have enough qualified staff? Do we need training to execute them? Do we have an adequate legal framework? Is the proposal lawful? Does it require amendment or does it require Federal Executive Council approval? All such questions come up. They look at them all. Then what is the financial reality? Where will the money come from? The budget ceiling has been released. Recurring expenditure is already high. So we consider all those things before taking any position. Then we'll now look at the performance expectations. What is the performance outcome? Deliver approval, meeting timelines, and other things like that. They come into effect. So, we can see that it's common that you can see that an officer may support innovation, but also be conscious about proposal that introduces significant implication risk without clear authority or resources. Now, all these forces, how do they reconcile? This is where leadership comes in. The permanent secretary, the administrative head of the ministry's role is not simply to choose between competing needs. It's to ask questions such as which option best addresses the ministry's mandate. What risks accompany each choice? What can wait until the next budget cycle? The objective is to reach a balanced decision rather than a perfect one. So that's my take on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saeed. Some recommendations from this report often ask an institution to give up something, whether that is a mandate, a revenue stream, or an established way of working. That naturally creates resistance, and often for reasons the people involved consider legitimate. In your experience, how does a ministry work through that, and what usually determines whether a reform of that kind eventually goes through or gets set aside for another day?
Yeah, thank you. Generally, we believe that reform normally face resistance from the officers that look at themselves as being on the receiving end. But however, the most difficult reforms are not those that introduce something new. They are the ones that ask people or institutions to stop doing something, surrender authority, or change long-established way of doing things. So such reform generally generates resistance from inside government, it is important to understand that the resistance is not always obstruction. It reflects genuine concern about legitimacy, capacity, accountability, and others. But one thing you must know is that when a reform requires an institution to give something up, the debate is no longer only about whether the reform is desirable. No, it becomes a negotiation about risk, responsibility, accountability, and consequences. You understand? Generally, there are several common sources of resistance. This could come about losing statutory responsibilities. Na me dey do am. It's my own. You remember when during Obasanjo's era, is it? Yes. When federal road safety used to be under the police. The problem they went to before removing them from that place was, in fact, the police resisted it, that they have to be under them. Sometimes that resistance could be genuine and excuse, but generally, what people concerned about is they don't want to lose their statutory responsibility when change comes. Then they concern about the resources. Sometimes a reform transfer responsibility without transferring staff, funding, or equipment. It's okay, you are doing this one, but all of that load associated with that responsibility still stays with me. So they will resist it. If you are taking it, I'll take your staff away now, so offload the financial headache for me. There are some concern about accountability. If responsibility becomes shared among several organizations, officials will worry about who will ultimately be held accountable, who will be held responsible. So accountability needs to be clear. Sometimes, again, it's about disruption. Career public servants often see reforms introduced enthusiastically and then abandoned after leadership change. So, as a result, you see that they will not support it. So, how does the ministry work through this concern? The first step is consultation. You have to consult, get the buy-in of relevant stakeholders. So major reforms are rarely developed by one department acting alone or by one person acting alone. You need to have the all stakeholders to sit together, get the affected department, the agency under the ministry, legal services, the relevant department. The objective is simply to persuade people to identify risk early and improve the proposal before implementation. You see, what you brought to that table to explain to them might not be what you are going to implement. Sometimes, good evidence help answer such questions as: what problem are we trying to solve? Why is the current arrangement insufficient? What alternatives were considered? What will happen if nothing changed? Evidence helps shift the discussion from institutional preference to public interest. Many reform initiatives are changed. They are tampered with or modified after consultation. Instead of immediate transfer of all responsibility, government may decide to do that phase implementation, pilot program, and other things like that. And the other one is what usually determines whether the reforms proceeds. Several factors determines whether a particular reform proceeds. One is leadership commitment. If the permanent secretary, the honorable minister and permanent secretary, in the case of education, honorable ministers, because you have minister of state, and the permanent secretary consistently support the reform, it is much more likely to succeed and proceed as intended. If leadership is divided or changes before key decisions are made, momentum will slow down. The second one is the strength of the evidence. The strength of the evidence. Decision makers are more willing to persuade difficult reforms when evidence clearly demonstrates the scale of the problem, the cost, and the likely benefit of the change. The third one is implementation planning. Many reform fails not because people oppose them, but because implementation arrangements are weak. Such questions as: who is responsible for doing what? When is he expected to do it? And what resources is he expected to use in executing it? Under what legal authority? All these credible questions must be answered. Then you have the fourth one as the stakeholders' confidence. people are more willing to accept change when they believe that they have been consulted. That sense of saying, yes, I'm aware. If you consult someone before doing something, yes, I'm aware. That human pride that, yes, they didn't do it behind my back is there. They believe that, yes, my voice was heard. I voiced this out during the consultation, and they have taken it into consideration. The government commitment is seeing the reform all through. Then another factor again is timeliness. This timeliness of the reform. A technical excellent reform may still be deferred if government is facing some constraint, financial constraint. Another major reform is underway. Elections are approaching. No, all such things like that. So why are some reforms set aside? Okay, if the evidence of the research of the report is inconclusive, it will be set aside. If implementation risk outweighs the immediate benefit, it will be set aside. If funding provision is not made for that report, it will be set aside. Legal changes required but not yet obtained, it will be set aside. If the key stakeholders oppose to it, like if you take the Nigerian universities now, government wants to do like when or the ministry, the military, when they wanted to do the IPs for them, they for obvious reasons they resisted it, and government now backed out. So if key stakeholders remain strongly opposed to it, they actually conclude that the ministry lacks the capacity to do it, then they will drop it. So those are the many reform actually return later when there's additional research, when after the pilot testing, the National Assembly legislative amendment and other things, then we have strong stakeholder support. Yes, it will come true. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. A recommendation is never judged on its merit alone. It is judged against the mandates, the timetable, the politics, and sometimes against the interests of the people being asked to implement it. And when it survives all of that, it still has to be paid for. So this will move us to our next question. Dr. Saeed, agreement in principle is free, budget line is not. Take us through what happens when a ministry decides to fund something new. How does it enter the planning and budget cycle? Who has to be convinced along the way, and where does the Ministry of Finance or Budget and National Planning come into it?
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And generally, the journey from research to policy has taught me one lesson. Government rarely rejects good evidence because it is evidence. More often, it struggles to use evidence that has not been presented in the language of decision making. Researchers sometimes believe that if the methodology is rigorous and the conclusion are sound, the work will naturally influence policy. In reality, high-quality research is the starting point, not the finishing point. This challenge is translating that research into something the machinery of government can act upon. Government is looking for solution. It's not looking for thesis to read and other something like that. So, for a research to be acceptable like that, we'll start with the decision, not the literature, as in academic circle. Because with the ministry, we ask, what decision do we have to make? Those are the typical questions we ask. So, a report should therefore make clear what is the problem, why does it matter now, what decision is required to be taken to address that problem. If this question are answered on the first few page of your report, senior officials will more likely go to engage with the report. Then the second point is define the problem precisely. Government cannot solve a vague problem instead of saying service delivery needs improvement. Explain process time for recruitment approval has increased from 4 to 12 weeks over past maybe 3-4 years because of 3 identified bottlenecks. So specifically, this leads to action, not say service delivery needs to be improved. How? Why? So the how and why now is what's of interest to decision makers before they can proceed. So And if your report does not present options, you should present options and not just recommendations. A strong research report presents options, option A, B, C. If not this, this, this. If not this, because of this, you do this because of this, do this because of this. So you present those options and giving them the advantages they have over each other. For each option, it discusses expected benefits, likely cost implication, implementation risk, and trade-off. That will enable the decision makers in the ministry to exercise judgment rather than simply accept or reject a single proposal. So another factor is to understand government constraint. Research is more persuasive when it recognizes that government has budget limitations. You have legal requirements. It faces procurement procedures, staffing implication, and other things. So most research do not take this into consideration. Then, a research should talk about the implementation plan. If you approve this today, what happens tomorrow morning? The report should identify the lead institution, supporting agencies, implementation consequences, and the other factors are the measurable indicators. So that's where the research become operational. Okay. The one factor to consider again is anticipated resistance. We have agreed that every reform must face resistance. A useful report will now identify who is likely to support the proposal, who may have concerns, why those concerns are legitimate, and how they might be managed. So ignoring implementation and politics does not make those issues disappear. So as you do your own, you must factor the resistance into it. Okay. Then you communicate it properly. The most times the report from director always begins with the executive summary, the policy brief, or the recommendations. If those documents are clear and concise, the full report is much more likely to be. So most in the ministries, most of us will look at the executive summary. It's watery. Then they don't need to go and waste your time on 30 pages reading it like that. While working as a middle officer in the Federal Civil Service at the Federal Ministry of Transportation, I noticed something, that the President Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, is a very, very meticulous kind of officer. He takes time to read and underline. If you see the memo coming from him, or proposal coming from him, or he said anything to him, he reads them one by one, line by line, to give direction. Okay? So, from there, you now communicate and you see it clearly. So, most times, what we recommend then, I respect his open-mindedness in that regard. What we recommend are not always, most times, what he approves, because he will look the other way around, look at other factors we have not seen, and you will just. So when it comes down, you analyze it, you will give thumb up to him that yes, he did a very good job. Then the research work should also show the consequences of action and inaction. What happens if government acts? What happens if government does nothing? Sometimes the strongest argument for reform is demonstrating the long-term cost of maintaining the status quo. Okay. Another factor to consider is build evaluation into the recommendation. Do not end with implementation. Explain how will success be measured, what should be the policy, when is the policy expected to be reviewed, under what circumstances should it be modified, and such things like that. So generally, a report survives if it has all these characteristics considered. So it's not about the statistics analysis, it's the technical analysis, but every practical question, decision making we ask is addressed. So you will see that it will flow, it will survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. When you look at process from the research side, what does it demand of the evidence? From your experience, what makes evidence useful when ministries are making budget decisions? What kind of information help officials move a proposal from being a good idea to something that can realistically be funded?
So there are a lot of factors to be considered to fund the reform. One of those factors is if you have a research hub, you now say, why? Tell us why the problem. What has been done on the problem before? What is the existing legislation on it? What is the financial implication? So how do you monitor? Government look at all this before they take any decision on to fund or not to fund. Do you have a duplicate program in place? Is it in line with government priority? Is it the ministry priority? Is it in line with the government agenda? So there are all those factors that you need to look at before you can announce, okay, this evidence are strong enough. And like I said before, if you are looking at those evidence, you now say, work out the options. What options are available? So you will critically analyze those things and put them forward for decision makers to make their own decisions on them. So generally, it's those factors you need to look at. Who does what? What is the problem? Who is responsible for this? What is the legal framework for that? Is it accommodated in the ministry mandate? Is it the financial, the funding? How is it going to be implemented? All those factors need to be considered to be able to move ahead. Thank you, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Doctor. Briefly, when a good proposal does make it into the budget in a given year, what is usually behind that? Does it come back the following year or does it just disappear?
Yeah, thank you. You see, that a proposal is rejected today does not mean that it's dead. There are reasons for government rejecting proposals. Proposals might be good, but no, maybe the budget cycle has gone past before it came up. It will have to wait for the other budget cycle. Proposal might be good, then you have another one that is running already, similar one. So you want to end that before picking up this particular one. Then sometimes again, you see that you have a proposals which is good, but in his wisdom, the permanent secretary or the minister will discover that no, you don't have enough evidence with this proposal. So go and work on it more. So definitely it will be stepped down for next year. Then there are sometimes again you require a legal framework for it. If it's not there, it will be dropped for next year. You see, some proposals, sometimes you discover that it goes across ministries, 2 or 3 ministries. So before they could do that, and you see year in, year out, it will be dropped. It dropped this year, maybe next year it's already dropped. Then eventually it will be picked when the time is, when the necessary things are done. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. So it's needful to know that government really rejects evidence, and quality research evidence is very important. The challenge there, but though the challenge there is now translating that research or that evidence into what government can work with. The reports can be good, research reports can be good, but it should present not just recommendations but options.
Yes.
The options should spell out, if we do this, what will be the benefits? What are the cost implications? What are the legal frameworks required? Is it a priority? Is it addressing the objective like the development goals priority? And if we do the other one, the next option. So there's a need to not just have recommendations, but have options, and also provide a structure and framework to those options with outcome in view. So this will now lead us to our next question. Dr. Saeed, a policy approved and funded, where does it most commonly lose momentum from there? Coordination between agencies, procurement, capacity at state or local level, or a change of minister halfway through? And again, what protects a reform through a leadership transition? Is it the legal instrument, the budget commitment, the civil servant who stay when the politicians leave, or something else? Please share your response.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emmanuel. You see, when you build a reform around a person, when the person leaves, the reforms just fizzle out like that. So my advice and from my experience is that whenever we need to carry out a policy or the reform, we should try to institutionalize it. Don't build reform around or policy around the person. If he leaves, finish. But if you institutionalize it, then it will stand the test of time. I give you an example. Federal Civil Service and Implementation Strategy Program. It was started by, I think, Oyoita, because it was institutionalized. Head of Service, Folashade inherited it, developed it, and after they monitored the first phase, then he now reduced the semantic areas to about 8. Follow through. Then the current head of service inherited it. In fact, took it up like it's his own, it's her own, and followed it up the same way. And now, do you know now that resulting from that, a monitoring and evaluation of the entire project, it has now come up with FCIP 2026 to 2030. That is what institutionalization of policy or reform means. Something that was introduced by Oyo Ita. Do you know, before I left service, every Thursday, the current head of service declares PMS, which is one of the 5 points of the FC, PMS week or PMS day, and randomly choose to go and monitor it from any ministry. He won't tell you. We just come with his staff. The head of service is coming. He's here. That's what they do. That's what's called monitoring, perfect monitoring. So she didn't say that I'm not the one. The initiative is on my own. No. He's following it up as if it's our own, because the idea that FCIP thing was institutionalized. So for any something to succeed, we must learn to institutionalize that reform. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now, the stage we hear about lists. Once a policy has been running for a year or two, does anyone go back to check what it actually achieved? Is there a formal review? And does what it finds feed into next round of decision? From everything you have seen across the policy cycle, what needs to exist inside an MDA for evidence used to become routine rather than depending on individual champions? How do institutions build a culture where planning, budgeting, implementation, and review all routinely draw on evidence?
Thank you very much. In the Federal Civil Service, a policy is not just implemented and forgotten about. No, there is an established expectation that it will be monitored, evaluated, and reviewed. I've just given you an example of FCIP. You could see what Mrs. Oyoita started. The monitoring and review of that particular one gave rise to FCIP 25. Then, currently again, because of the monitoring and evaluation carried out by the present head of service, he has now upped it to FCIP 30. So, generally, in practice, the quality and consistency of these reviews varies across ministries and programs. Approval is not just the end of the policy cycle. After implementation comes accountability, generally. Government asks whether the policy achieved what it was designed to achieve, whether public funds were well spent, and whether the policy should be continued, modified, expanded, or discontinued. So there's, in this particular is FCIP, there's, after the whole analysis, after the monitoring, after the review, there was the need for it to be continued and modified and expanded. So the tempo depends on who leads. So it depends so much on the leadership. If, for example, in the ministries, if, for example, they want to implement something, they want to introduce a policy, and like I told you before, you institutionalize it, that will tell you the ways to monitor, review, and others. See, if you see any policy that you are saying in the ministry, it goes through thorough review. Nobody just introduce a policy and go to sleep. It goes through thorough review, routine monitoring, internal management reviews by the top management, the monitoring and evaluation. Are we achieving our aim? And carry out some external oversight on them. You find out that this particular, as you go around, does it influence future decisions. So as you go along, you see some modification to conform with present day realities. So it's always embedded in the policy guideline of all reform, how to monitor, evaluate, and review, and make necessary modification as you go along implementing government policy. But again, a responsible ministry does not judge a policy by the quality of its launch, but by the result of its attitude. What is it delivering? Is it of benefit to the public? That is why monitoring, evaluation, and periodic reviews are essential, because they indicate the policy is achieving its objective. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Learning is what turns a policy decision into an institutional capability. Without it, every administration starts the journey again from the beginning. So, Doctor, just in a very short answer response, let me close it with 3 quick ones for you. One thing researchers should stop doing if they want their work to travel. One change in government that would most improve the journey from evidence to delivery. One reason you remain optimistic about evidence-informed policy in Africa. In a short answer response.
Okay, short answer response. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And most researchers, they end their research work with conclusion. In the government circle, conclusions are not of any use to us. What's of use to us is the decision. The decision. What, in your own view, do you think are the decisions to be taken to address this particular issue or problem? So if you don't do that, then you can't go far. At least in the ministry, you cannot go far in the MDAs. Then the second one is the one thing the government should do is institutionalization. They should institutionalize a policy. If, for example, the Minister of Education introduce a policy, if it's institutionalized, even when he leaves, it's not about him, because everybody will now embrace it. All the staff will now majority of the staff will embrace it and to work. So it's not about don't build a policy around a person or a position. Institutionalize it, and everything will flow. Then my optimism is you see, because of the digital knowledge now of our youth and their inquisitive minds, I think I'm optimistic that we have a bright future ahead. Okay, when we started this program, I had some issue with this mic connection. If I tell you that it's a boy that is in JSS2 that came to sort it out for me, you'll be surprised. So, because of their interest in this digital space, I'm very, very optimistic that the future is bright. They have that evidence-based mind. If you want to do something, they'll tell you, why do you want me to do this? They have more inquisitive mind than our generation. So, and with that, I am very optimistic that the future is very bright for the public service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. What comes through from this conversation is that evidence travels more like a relay than a sprint.
Yeah, yes.
It changes hands every stage.
Yes.
And at every handover, it can either gain momentum or quietly lose it, just like you have mentioned. It has to survive the framing of the problem. It has to survive a room full of competing mandates, political timetables, and sometimes interests that would rather it went away. It has to survive being costed and defended in a budget process. It goes beyond that. It has to survive implementation across tiers of government that were not part of the original conversation. You cited the example of the former head of service.
Yeah.
Finally, it has to come back as learning that shapes the next decision. Yeah. For research does not replace judgment, politics, or leadership.
Yeah.
In that process, it strengthens them by making the trade-offs visible and the consequences easier to anticipate. So for researchers, you've given valuable advice, insight. So for researchers, the work does not end at publication. Evidence has to be built for the journey costed, framed around a decision someone is actually about to take, and communicate to the people who will carry it. And you've cited, you've referenced that very well in this conversation. The work is openness. That includes openness to evidence that complicates a plan you have already announced. And for institutions, the work is design. When asked for evidence, is part of how planning, budget, and review are done. Evidence stops depending on committed individuals and becomes simply how the system operates. That is when research stops being a report and starts being a school, a clinic, a better decision, because that is what it should lead to produce. Dr. Saeed, thank you for your time and for your contribution to strengthening public sector governance in Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
For our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Aig-Imoukhuede Foundation podcast series. Until next time, see you again.